The galaxy was on the brink of collapse. A powerful empire, the Zoran, had swept through the stars, conquering planets and civilizations with terrifying efficiency. No one had been able to stand against them. Their fleet was enormous, their technology far beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Zorans had made it clear that they were the rulers of the universe, and anyone who dared oppose them would be crushed. On one of the last remaining free planets, the Galactic Council gathered in a vast, sterile room. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in silence, their faces grim. The mood was heavy, the air thick with the scent of hopelessness. They had watched as the Zorans annihilated world after world, and now the end seemed inevitable. The Zoran fleet was coming, and there was no one left to stop them. "Earth," the voice of the council's leader, a tall, silver-haired man named Ambassador Kaller, rang out. "Do we have any word from them?" A murmur spread across the room. Earth was an ancient planet, once a thriving member of the galactic community, but for decades now, it had remained silent. Their messages had stopped coming, their ships had disappeared. No one knew what had happened to the humans. Some said they had retreated into isolation, others claimed they had been wiped out long ago. The truth was a mystery. But one thing was certain. Earth was no longer part of the galaxy's struggle. "We've received nothing from Earth in over 50 years, said a representative from the planet Sirath. "They've been quiet for too long. Why would they act now?" "Perhaps," Kaller said softly, his voice tinged with regret. "They've given up on us. The humans were never a military force like the Zorans. It's possible they no longer have the strength to help." "I agree," said a woman from the planet Norlin, her voice cold. "It's too late. The Zorans will destroy us all, and Earth will be no different." The room fell silent. All eyes were on the leader as he stood and looked out of the large windows that spanned the wall. The view outside was breathtaking. The vastness of space, the swirling colors of nebulae, and the stars that dotted the sky like scattered diamonds. But for those in the room, the beauty of it all felt empty. The Zoran Empire was coming, and they would wipe it all away. Kaller turned back to face the council. "We must prepare for what comes next. There's no saving us. We must find a way to go out with dignity." But just as the room was about to descend into despair, something unexpected happened. A signal came through. It wasn't a call for help from any of the council's members. No, this message came from Earth itself. The transmission was brief but clear, encrypted in a code that had been used by Earth centuries ago. Ambassador Kaller's hands trembled as he activated the communication screen. On the other side of the galaxy, a deep voice spoke through the static, cutting through the tension. "In the room. We are coming." It wasn't a plea for help. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even a promise. It was a statement, a declaration. The council members sat frozen, staring at the screen, unsure of what to make of it. Earth's message was short, but it carried. With it a sense of purpose, an undeniable strength. "Is this really from Earth?" one representative asked, her voice filled with disbelief. Kaller stared at the screen, a mix of awe and confusion crossing his face. "It seems to be." Another transmission followed almost immediately, this one even more puzzling. Earth was sending information about a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The details were vague, but it was clear that the humans had been hiding something. For years they had been building, preparing in the shadows, unknown to the rest of the galaxy. "Why didn't they tell us?" someone whispered. Kaller's mind raced. Earth had always been the underdog, a planet of creativity and determination. They had never been known for their military strength. Their fleets were small, their technology archaic compared to that of the Zorans. But this was different. Earth had something, and it was coming. The room erupted into a flurry of questions and speculation, but Kaller held up a hand to silence them. His mind was already working, piecing together the fragments of information. The humans had been planning something for decades, hiding their power, waiting for the right moment. But why? And why now? "Where is the fleet?" a voice from the back of the room asked. Kaller opened his mouth to answer, but before he could speak, the transmission cut out. The screen went black, and the room fell into an eerie silence. No one knew what had just happened, but the sense of urgency was palpable. "Are they coming?" another representative asked. Kaller's gaze darkened. Yes, they are coming. But the question remained. Would they arrive in time? Could a fleet, no matter how powerful, really stand against the Zoran juggernaut? It was hard to say. Earth had always been a wild card, unpredictable and full of surprises. But this was different. The humans weren't just offering their help. They were offering something far greater. A final stand, a fight to the finish. In the days that followed, the Council scrambled to make sense of Earth's message. Ships were prepared, alliances were made, and defenses were set in place. The Zorans were still advancing, their fleet growing larger by the hour, but now there was hope. The humans, once thought weak and helpless, had a plan, and that plan was about to unfold in a way no one could have predicted. Far away, in the deepest reaches of space, Earth's mightiest armada was preparing to launch, but not everyone believed. There were whispers in the shadows, doubts that Earth could truly stand against the Zorans. Could a single fleet of ships really change the course of the galaxy? The Council had little choice but to wait and see. The next few days were tense, filled with anticipation and anxiety. The Zoran fleet grew ever closer to the edge of known space, and the fate of the galaxy seemed to hang in the balance. The Council leaders began to question their decisions, wondering if they had put too much faith in Earth's message. Had they been too quick to believe? Had they been wrong to hope? And yet, deep down, there was something stirring in their hearts, something that had been absent for so long. Hope. Days passed. The Zoran forces were close now, and it seemed the end was near. But just when it seemed like the galaxy would fall, the stars themselves seemed to shift. As the message from Earth echoed through the galaxy, confusion and hope intertwined in the minds of the Galactic Council. A fleet was coming. A powerful fleet, one that could stand against the Zoran Empire. But no one truly understood how the humans had achieved this. For years, Earth had been silent, seemingly irrelevant in the galaxy's grand conflict. Now, they were preparing to return to the battlefield, not as a mere participant, but as a force to be reckoned with. The atmosphere in the council chamber was tense. Representatives from countless worlds looked to each other, their faces filled with a mixture of disbelief and cautious optimism. The room, once filled with the sounds of defeat, was now quiet, as each person pondered what this fleet could mean for the galaxy's future. "We cannot underestimate the power of the Zorans," said a representative from the Androsian Alliance. His voice was firm, filled with the weight of years of galactic war. "The humans may have some surprises, but they are still outnumbered and outclassed by the Zorans. We must prepare for the worst." Ambassador Kaller nodded, acknowledging the concern. The Zorans were relentless, their vast fleet already spreading across the galaxy. Their ships were powerful, and their commanders ruthless. But something about Earth's message stirred a spark of hope in his heart. He couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had something that no one else had, their ingenuity, their unpredictability, and their unwillingness to give up, no matter the odds. "Let's not forget," Kaller said, standing tall in front of the Council, "that we have seen nothing like this from Earth before. They have always fought with unexpected brilliance. Perhaps, just perhaps, they have learned something in their years of isolation that we don't yet understand." "Brilliance?" a skeptical voice from the back of the room asked. It was a Zathar, known for their sharp logic and cold reasoning. The Zorans will crush them just as they have crushed every other enemy. The humans may have a few tricks, but they won't be enough. Kaller raised a hand to calm the room. Let's not jump to conclusions. Earth may have hidden their strength, but they wouldn't have made such a bold statement if they weren't prepared. We need to give them the chance to prove themselves. The discussions continued late into the night. There was fear, there was doubt, but there was also a sense of anticipation. The Zoran fleet was drawing closer, and the galaxy needed a miracle. Could Earth provide it? Across the stars on Earth, preparations were already underway. Inside a hidden military base, far beneath the surface of the planet, the heart of humanity's might was stirring. For decades, Earth had quietly worked on a secret project, an armada that would rival any in the galaxy. They had been patient, waiting for the right moment to strike. Now that moment had arrived. Admiral Helena Ward stood in front of a massive, holographic display staring at the detailed schematics of the fleet. She was a seasoned leader, one who had spent most of her life in the military, rising through the ranks. Her eyes, though tired, burned with determination. This was the moment they had all been working for. The moment humanity would show the galaxy what it was truly capable of. "Admiral," a voice called from behind her. It was Captain Marcus, her trusted second-in-command. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with a calm demeanor, always the first to analyze a situation from every angle. "What's the status?" Helena asked, her voice steady despite the weight of what lay ahead. "We're ready, Admiral," Marcus replied, his voice filled with confidence. "The fleet is in position. All ships have been loaded and are on standby. We've got a new weapon on each ship, something the Zorans have never seen before. We may be outnumbered, but we've got the element of surprise on our side." Helena nodded, her mind racing. "I know, but we also have to be smart. The Zorans won't make the same mistake twice. We'll have one chance to strike, and we have to make it count." She turned back to the display, where the hologram of the fleet hovered in midair. Dozens of ships, all of them sleek and designed for speed, were lined up in a formation that was unfamiliar to any of Earth's allies. This was not a force built for defense. This was a force built to attack, swift, brutal, and relentless. "We've trained for this moment," Helena said, her voice unwavering. "We've spent decades preparing, and we know the Zorans better than they know themselves. We've studied their tactics. We've learned their weaknesses. This time, they won't be able to crush us. This time we fight back." Captain Marcus looked at her, a hint of pride in his eyes. "The fleet will follow your command, Admiral. We're ready to show the galaxy what Earth can do." Helena smiled, though it was a grim expression. "Then let's make sure they never forget." The next few days were a blur of activity. Earth's armada was moving into position, its ships hidden deep within the planet's atmosphere, waiting for the right moment to break through the clouds and into open space. The Zorans were still far away, but they were getting closer every day. There was no time to waste. As the final preparations took place, the rest of the galaxy watched from the sidelines. The Council had sent messages to Earth, offering their support and promising aid, but the humans had politely declined. This was their fight, and they would face it alone. There was something about Earth's resolve that made even the most experienced leaders in the galaxy stop and take notice. Humanity was not asking for help. They were demanding that the galaxy acknowledge their strength. And so, on the eve of the battle, Earth's fleet emerged from the shadows. The skies above the planet darkened as dozens of ships ascended into space. The first to break through the clouds was the flagship, the Ascendant. Its hull gleamed with a silver-blue light, a symbol of humanity's new beginning. Behind it, the rest of the fleet followed, each ship moving in perfect unison, a testament to the years of preparation that had gone into this moment. The Galactic Council watched in awe as Earth's fleet moved into formation. For the first time in decades, The galaxy saw what humanity was truly capable of. This was no longer the Earth they had forgotten. This was a new Earth, one that was ready to stand up and fight. The Zoran fleet, unaware of the threat that had just emerged, continued its march toward the edge of the galaxy. But their confidence would soon be shattered. Earth had arrived, and they were not here to negotiate. They were here to win. As the Earth fleet moved forward, the tension in the galaxy grew. The Zorans had no idea what awaited them. The battle for the future of the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy exactly what they had been hiding all these years. The stars outside the observation window of Earth's flagship, the Ascendant, shone like scattered diamonds. Yet, for Admiral Helena Ward, those stars held a different meaning. They represented the battlefield where humanity's survival and the fate of the galaxy would soon be decided. Helena stood tall, her hands clasped behind her back as she gazed out at the fleet that had gathered behind her. It was a sight that would forever change the course of history. In the space beyond the fleet, the Zoran Empire was preparing its massive forces, still unaware of what Earth had unleashed. The fleet's ships were sleek, agile, and unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Each vessel was equipped with technology far beyond the Zoran's understanding, weaponry designed not just to fight, but to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast. Earth had built these ships for one reason: to stand against the most terrifying empire the galaxy had ever known. "Admiral," Captain Marcus's voice cut through her thoughts. "We're getting a transmission from the Zoran fleet. It's a warning." Helena turned toward him, her eyes narrowing. "A warning? How quaint!" She turned to the holodisplay, which flickered to life, showing the stern face of a Zoran general. His features were cold and emotionless. "Humans," the Zoran general's voice boomed across the room. "You are nothing but a small, forgotten planet. You cannot hope to match our strength. Surrender now, or be destroyed." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving silence in its wake. Helena's eyes glinted with resolve. She turned to her officers. "The Zorans think they can intimidate us with words. Let's show them that words are not what will decide this battle. It will be our actions." Marcus smiled, his confidence in the Admiral unwavering. "We're ready." Helena gave a nod, her gaze now fixed on the fleet as it prepared to move out of Earth's orbit. She felt the weight of the decision, but she knew it was the right one. For years, humanity had quietly watched the galaxy's struggles, believing that they could never stand up to the powerful forces that controlled the stars. But that was before. Now, Earth was no longer the weak planet in the corner of the galaxy. They had fought, they had built, and they had prepared for this moment. The fleet surged forward, cutting through space at speeds that the Zorans could not predict. The Ascendant led the charge, its engines glowing with power as it cut through the darkness of space like a knife. Behind it, dozens of other ships followed in perfect formation, their weapons systems primed and ready for battle. As the Earth fleet closed in on the Zoran Armada, a massive shadow loomed ahead. The Zoran ships were vast, their hulls reflecting the cold, sterile light of distant stars. The flagship of the Zoran fleet was enormous, a dark, hulking behemoth that seemed to absorb all light around it. Its weapons, powerful and destructive, could annihilate entire worlds with a single shot. But as the Earth fleet advanced, the Zorans were not prepared for the speed and maneuverability of the human ships. The first engagement came quickly. The Zorans opened fire, their weapons crackling with energy as they targeted the approaching fleet. Massive energy blasts tore through the void, but the human ships darted out of the way with astonishing agility. The Ascendant moved like a shadow, avoiding the first few blasts with ease, its systems humming as it returned fire with pinpoint accuracy. Earth's new weapons systems were unlike anything the Zorans had seen before. Rather than relying on brute force, the human ships utilized energy pulses that disrupted the Zoran systems, slowing their movements and causing confusion within their ranks. "They're not fighting like we thought they would," said Lieutenant Riva, one of Helena's trusted officers. "It's as if they've been studying our every move." Helena gripped the edge of the command chair, her mind racing. "That's exactly what they've done. The Zorans may have strength, but they lack the creativity that humans bring to the table. We've prepared for this moment, studied their weaknesses." The battle intensified as both fleets collided in a display of lights, explosions, and sheer power. The human ships, though outnumbered, used their speed and unpredictability to great advantage. Every maneuver was calculated, every move designed to outwit and confuse the Zoran commanders. The Zorans, accustomed to overwhelming their enemies with sheer might, were now facing an opponent that refused to be intimidated. In one particularly fierce engagement, the Ascendant fired a concentrated beam of energy at a Zoran warship, striking its shields and causing a massive explosion. The blast sent shockwaves through the battlefield, momentarily shaking the very fabric of space. As the Zoran ship spiraled out of control, Earth's fleet moved in, finishing off the crippled vessel with precise shots. It was a small victory, but it sent a powerful message. The humans weren't just defending their world. They were taking the fight to the Zorans, showing that Earth would not be defeated without a fight. As the battle raged on, the Zorans began to realize that their initial confidence was misplaced. Their warships were powerful, but they were not equipped to deal with the human fleet's tactics. The Zorans had expected to crush the humans quickly, but now their plans were unraveling. "We've never faced an enemy like this," the Zoran general growled, his voice filled with frustration. "Their tactics are unlike anything we've seen before." "Keep pushing forward," another Zoran officer shouted. "We can't let them win." But despite their orders, the Zoran fleet began to falter. Earth's ships struck swiftly, overwhelming one enemy vessel after another. The Zorans tried to regroup, but the damage had been done. The humans had thrown them off balance, and their forces were beginning to crumble. Helena's voice echoed through the comms. "Now is the time to press forward. Show the galaxy what humanity can do. No mercy." And so, Earth's fleet surged forward, cutting through the Zoran defenses like a blade through fabric. The Zorans attempted to form a new defensive line, but they were disorganized and confused. The once imposing armada of the Zoran Empire now seemed vulnerable, its once impenetrable forces torn apart by the speed and precision of the humans. Attack. In the heat of battle, it became clear. Earth had brought something to the fight that the Zorans had not expected. The Zorans were fighting a war of attrition, relying on their overwhelming strength and numbers. But humanity had something more: strategy, ingenuity, and the ability to adapt. They were learning from each engagement, growing stronger with every move. Admiral Helena Ward watched from the bridge of the Ascendant as the Zoran fleet began to retreat. It wasn't a victory yet, but it was a turning point. They had fought with everything they had, and for the first time in the galaxy's history, the Zoran Empire was on the defensive. The battle had raged for hours, and the once mighty Zoran fleet had been pushed back farther than any of their commanders had ever anticipated. The vast expanse of space was filled with wreckage, broken ships and floating debris marking the price of battle. Yet, despite their initial shock, the Zorans had not given up. They regrouped, gathering their strength for a final counteroffensive. But Earth's fleet was not about to back down. The human ships, though damaged, had proven their worth. Their fleet, agile and filled with innovations that the Zorans had never encountered, had already taken down several of the Zorans' most powerful vessels. Now, Earth's forces were poised to deliver the final blow. In the heart of the chaos, Admiral Helena Ward stood at the helm of the Ascendant, her eyes locked on the battlefield. She was a woman of few words, but when she spoke, her commands were clear and firm. "We're not giving them a chance to regroup. We press forward," Helena said, her voice cold and determined. Her crew responded without hesitation, their movements synchronized like a well-rehearsed dance. The human fleet, once considered weak and insignificant, had shown the galaxy its true strength. The Zorans had underestimated them, and now they would pay the price. A new weapon had been deployed from the Ascendant, a powerful energy pulse designed to target and disable enemy ships without causing outright destruction. The idea had been simple but effective. The humans wouldn't just destroy the Zorans, they would cripple them, leaving them helpless to defend themselves. It was a weapon of precision, and it was about to change the course of the battle. Helena's heart raced as she watched the weapon lock onto a massive Zoran battleship in the distance. She had no time for doubt, no room for hesitation. Earth's fleet had worked tirelessly to develop this new technology, and now it was time to see it in action. "Fire!" Helena ordered, her voice steady. The pulse of energy shot out from the bomb, ascendant like a bolt of lightning, streaking through the blackness of space. It struck the Zoran ship with pinpoint accuracy, sending ripples through the enemy's shield system. The blast caused the shields to flicker, then collapse entirely. The Zoran vessel was now exposed. For a brief moment, the Zorans had thought their technology was untouchable, but Earth had done the unthinkable, disabling their mighty ships with nothing more than a carefully calculated strike. "Target their main engines," Helena commanded. "Finish them off." The fleet, led by the Ascendant, moved in quickly, each ship firing its own precision blasts. The Zoran battleship, now helpless, was torn apart piece by piece. The other Zoran ships hesitated, unsure of how to respond to this new form of warfare. Captain Marcus, standing beside Helena, glanced at the damage report. "That was a major blow, Admiral. They're scrambling to regroup, but they're disorganized. They've never faced an attack like this." Helena's gaze never wavered. She had seen the signs. The Zorans were faltering, their once imposing strength now reduced to confusion and chaos. They had relied too heavily on their numbers and their firepower, thinking that sheer force could win the day. But they had forgotten one key thing. Humans were resilient. They didn't just fight. They adapted, they learned, and they innovated. "It's not over yet," Helena said, her voice low but filled with conviction. "We push harder. We don't give them a chance to recover." The Zoran fleet was in disarray. Their ships had been strategically disabled, their commanders were panicked, and their once unbreakable formation was falling apart. The human fleet, on the other hand, was moving with precision and coordination, pressing forward in a relentless push that the Zorans couldn't match. Helena watched the battlefield unfold before her. Earth's ships were outnumbered, but they had something the Zorans didn't: unity. Every ship in the human fleet was working together toward the same goal, their actions guided by a singular purpose. They were fighting for survival, for their home, for their future, and that made all the difference. "Admiral," said Reva, one of the senior officers on the bridge, "we've received a communication from the Galactic Council. They're offering support, sending reinforcements." Helena shook her head. "We don't need reinforcements. Not yet. We've got this." But the arrival of the Council's reinforcements was a sign of something much more important. The galaxy was beginning to take notice. The humans were no longer the underdogs. They were a force to be reckoned with. Earth's victory, however small, was becoming a symbol of hope for those who had been oppressed by the Zoran Empire for so long. In the distance, another massive Zoran battleship emerged. From the chaos, its weapons primed and ready to strike. It was one of their largest ships, a symbol of their power, and it had come to end the battle once and for all. But it was too late. The human fleet, now in full formation, swarmed around the Zoran ship like a pack of wolves closing in on their prey. The Ascendant led the charge, its engines roaring as it moved in for the final attack. The Zoran ship fired its weapons, but the humans were already too close. With a swift maneuver, the Ascendant darted to the side, avoiding the blast. "Now!" Helena said, her voice sharp. The Earth fleet unleashed its full power, pouring all of their remaining energy into a single devastating strike. The Zoran battleship was engulfed in a fiery explosion, its massive hull crumpling like paper. The remaining Zoran ships, already reeling from the earlier blows, hesitated, unsure of how to respond. The tide had turned. Captain Marcus grinned, his eyes gleaming with pride. "That's it, Admiral. They're breaking." Helena allowed herself a small smile. "We've still got a long way to go, but we've given them a reason to think twice." The Zoran fleet, once so sure of its victory, was now retreating. Humans had shown the galaxy that they were no longer powerless. They had stood up to the might of the Zorans, and they had made it clear that Earth was not a planet to be ignored. The battle had ended, but the war was far from over. The Zoran fleet, once a symbol of unstoppable power, was in retreat, battered and broken. The remnants of their vast armada fled deeper into space, regrouping to lick their wounds and plan their next move. But for the first time in centuries, the galaxy saw a new and powerful force on the horizon: humanity. As the dust settled from the battle, Admiral Helena Ward stood on the bridge of the Ascendant, gazing out at the blackness of space. The once feared Zoran fleet was nowhere in sight, and Earth's fleet had emerged victorious. But victory was bittersweet. Many ships had been lost, and countless lives had been sacrificed. The battle had taken its toll on everyone. "We did it," Captain Marcus said, his voice filled with both relief and pride. He stood beside Helena, his eyes scanning the damage reports on the screen before them. Helena didn't respond right. Away. Her eyes were fixed on the vast emptiness of space, her mind racing. They had won, yes. But what did that victory mean in the grand scheme of things? The Zorans were still out there, still a looming threat, and while humanity had proven its strength, the galaxy was far from safe. "Not yet," Helena finally said. "We've won a battle, but the war isn't over. We need to stay vigilant. We can't afford to let our guard down." Captain Marcus nodded, understanding her words. The Zorans would not give up easily. They had learned that Earth was a force to be reckoned with, but they would come back stronger, smarter, and more determined. It was only a matter of time before they regrouped and tried again. But for now, Earth had something the Zorans couldn't take away: a glimmer of hope. And that hope was spreading across the galaxy. Across the Galactic Council chambers, the news of humanity's victory had spread quickly throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Council, once dismissive of Earth, had been forced to acknowledge the unthinkable. Humans had turned the tide of war. They had faced the Zorans, a power that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, and they had won. Representatives from dozens of planets gathered in the council chamber, murmurs of disbelief and awe echoing through the room. No one had expected this. No one had thought Earth could be capable of such a thing. Yet, the evidence was undeniable. Ambassador Kaller, the leader of the Galactic Council, stood at the head of the room, his voice steady but filled with wonder. "We are witnessing a new era in galactic history. Earth has proven itself not just a survivor, but a warrior. The Zoran Empire, which once believed itself invincible, has been forced to retreat, and humanity is at the forefront of this victory." There were no cheers, no applause. The galaxy was too stunned to celebrate, but there was a quiet respect that hung in the air. Earth had done the impossible, and now the galaxy was watching. "We owe them a debt," said a representative from the planet Eldar, a wise and ancient species who had seen countless civilizations rise and fall. "The humans have given us all a chance to survive. It is time we stand with them." The room erupted into conversation, but it was clear that the tone had shifted. The once skeptical members of the council were now recognizing the power that humanity had brought to the table. Earth was no longer the forgotten planet on the edge of the galaxy. They were the new giants in the room. Back aboard the Ascendant A's, the council debated the future. Admiral Helena Ward continued to oversee the recovery efforts on the Ascendant. The ship had been damaged during the battle, its hull marked by the scars of combat. But it was still operational, still ready to fight if necessary. Helena walked through the corridors, her footsteps echoing softly in the quiet ship. Crew members moved about, tending to repairs, checking systems, and making sure everything was in order. The atmosphere was one of exhaustion, but there was also a sense of pride in the air. The crew had fought together, and they had won together. Helena entered the command center, where her officers were already hard at work. Riva, the ship's communications officer, looked up from the console. "Admiral, the council has sent us a message. They want to meet with you." Helena raised an eyebrow. "The council? What do they want?" "They want to offer their support," Riva replied, her voice careful. "It seems they've realized that Earth is no longer just a minor player. They want to discuss the future." Helena nodded, though she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more at play here than just a show of gratitude. She had no illusions. The galaxy was still a dangerous place, and the Zorans were not the only threat lurking in the stars. But this was a step forward, a step toward unity. "I'll meet with them," Helena said. "Prepare a secure channel. It's time we make our intentions clear." As the communication channel opened, a hologram of Ambassador Kaller appeared before her. The elder statesman's face was somber, but there was a hint of respect in his eyes. "Admiral Ward," Kaller began, his voice filled with gravity. "I speak for the entire Galactic Council when I say that humanity's actions today have changed the course of this war. We owe you and your people a great debt." Helena met his gaze, her expression steady. "We fought for our survival, Ambassador. But it wasn't just for Earth. It was for everyone in this galaxy. The Zorans threatened us all." "You are right," Kaller agreed. "And that is why we must work together. The Zorans are not the only threat we face. There are other powers in the galaxy who may seek to take advantage of this power vacuum. We need unity. We need Earth's strength at our side." Helena considered his words carefully. "You're asking us to join the Council, to become part of something larger than ourselves." Kaller nodded. "Yes, humanity has proven itself capable of far more than anyone thought. Together we can ensure that this galaxy remains free from tyranny. We need you, Admiral. We need Earth." Helena felt a weight settle on her shoulders. The decision was enormous. Joining the Galactic Council would mean accepting new responsibilities, entering a political landscape filled with rivalries and old grudges. But it would also mean security for Earth and its allies. It would mean a place in the galaxy, a voice at the table. "We'll need time to decide," Helena said. "But I'll speak with my people. The future is uncertain, but Earth will not turn its back on the galaxy." Ambassador Kaller's hologram bowed slightly. "We understand. We'll await your decision, Admiral, and remember, we stand with you." The communication ended, and silence fell over the bridge once again. Helena turned to face her crew, her eyes filled with a quiet resolve. The road ahead was not easy, but it was theirs to walk. The galaxy had changed that day, and so had Earth. They were no longer the forgotten planet. They were the protectors of the galaxy.